A glorious leader that in past ages would conquer the map and paint it gray, Alexander of Macedon just doesn't hold up in today's Civilization 6. Today, we are going to go over Alexander's ability and how I tend to play him, including things like tech beelines and religion choices. I'll go over how well he fares at each victory type and give him a final rating at the end. Alexander wars like almost no one else in the game. His entire kit is situated towards waging war without ever stopping, and his ability to the world's end allows you to do just that. You will never suffer war weariness as Macedon, and this may seem like a small thing. Who thinks about war weariness in Civ 6 compared to Civ 5? But it can be huge. Once you start moving into the late game and you've grabbed a few luxury resources, and you can create entertainment districts, you can still get ecstatic cities, and that gives you a 10% yield across all your cities that other warmongers just doesn't get. This is also not mentioning the wonder mechanic. If you capture a city with a world wonder, all your units, no matter where they are on the map, heal fully, and this really helps accelerate war, especially in the mid to late game when you would be spending 2 to 3 turns recovering after sieging down walled cities. Combine all of this with Macedon's Civ ability, Hellenistic Fusion, which gives you either Eurekas or inspirations for each city you capture, if they have like an encampment, campus, holy site, or theater, and you get a Civ that absolutely steamrolls everything into the late game. As you take city after city, you pretty much never fall behind in science or culture, never really having to stop or heal your units or do anything like that. But the thing with domination civs is, unless you get bonuses to starting your wars, you often struggle to get off the ground, and especially on higher levels. Alexander gets like no bonuses to help him through the early games to get the start of his first war going. As Alexander, the early game is in fact your bane. You're very map dependent. Even though you can play every map to the end, if you really want to get that war rolling without waiting until bombards and muskets like other civs do, and you really want to use your unique units, you really need to spawn with horses and iron, or preferably both. So how do we start? When I play Alexander, I always start by researching animal husbandry. The presence of horses is really going to dictate what I do next. If I have horses, I'm going to work my way towards bronze working and look for iron while building a settler to settle on the horses if possible. Or I'll save up gold to buy a builder to build the pasture as soon as possible. I want to rush towards my heteroi. This is the unique horseman that gives me great general points for every unit that I kill. Now the heteroi, these horsemen are great, and the earlier I can get them, the earlier I can start farming up barbs with them, which is what you want to do. Horseback riding is an easy tech to boost because all it requires is that you build that pasture and you tech through archery, and both of these things are things that you're going to be doing, especially teching through archery because you're going to be barb hunting. As Alexander, I almost never build any scouts. I find that I don't have enough production time in the early game to get that going. I always start with a slinger and move into a warrior and then start on my settler as soon as possible. I try to kill barb camps for gold while I'm looking for my horses, and then I make my heteroi and farm up a couple of great general points while I'm looking for my iron. Hopefully I'll settle the iron as soon as the horse city and upgrade my 2 warriors to hypaspists, the other unique unit, the swordsman that gets combat bonuses when attacking cities. You get a +5 bonus, and you get bonuses for being near to other hypaspists. And I use them to try to mow down my nearest neighbor. If all of these things line up, then I have a good game. If not, it's reroll time because I've become irrelevant. The big problem with Alexander is men-at-arms. Alexander's units used to rule the classical and medieval era until the New Frontier Pass, because there was such a huge gap between swordsmen and musketmen. But now that we have men-at-arms and they come at apprenticeship, it just slows you down so much you're slowed down too much to be useful. If you can't get your first neighbor down before crossbows and men-at-arms, then you're dead because you have no bonuses, no tech bonuses that come without warring and actually taking cities. The AI are just going to speed straight past you. I shouldn't say no tech bonuses because Alexander has the Basilikoi Paides, which is their unique building. It's a barracks replacement that gives you tech, which is 25% of the cost of the production for each unit in your city. So when you make like a swordsman, you get 25% of that production cost. And that's pretty cool because, you know, it's free science that other civs don't get. And it's usually better than like the campus research grants that you get for campus projects. but again, it really only comes in handy later in the game. You just do not have time to produce an encampment and barracks before your first war. You really need to get the timing down perfectly or you're gonna bust. But if you do get to that late game point, all you have to do is build encampments in your cities and just start building planes or boats and deleting them to save your gold, and you will speed straight through the techs that you've already boosted from conquering. As for pantheons and religions, it's pretty easy. You don't go for a religion. You're not gonna need it and it's not gonna help you. You just don't have that production time for this. If you really need to get that early war off, so you have to maximize your production in the first 30 turns of the game or you're useless. If you get that early war, you've won the game. You get so many boosts for conquering as Alex that you'll just win off of taking one other civ. Pantheons, however, can be really useful. Always try to go your Pantheon as early as possible. So I plug in God King and I go for God of the Forge to get my units out even faster, or I go for God of Craftsman if it's already taken. My preferred first government is almost always Oligarchy with Alexander, again because it gives your units a combat bonus and it lets you plug in the Great General wildcard, which gives you like an extra boost to that really short-lived bonus from your Heteroi. You're really not going to be getting your encampment down fast enough on deity, so you need that card and you need those Heteroi boosts to get through your early Great Generals. In domination games, Alexander's an 8 out of 10, and that's a shame because in the past he was probably a 10 out of 10. But with power creep and the new Frontier Pass and production bonuses and free units that Byzantium and Abraham Lincoln get, he just doesn't hold up anymore. You have to go all in for that early rush, and if you succeed, then you have a great domination game. But if you don't succeed, you don't transition very well at all into other victories. For science, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 because he can do a science game well, but it's a strange science game where you're conquering half of the world, getting those Eureka boosts as much as you can, and then you're using your Basilikoi to get the tech boost from all of those units. But if you're doing that, just finish your domination game. It's going to be faster. All other victory types get a 3 out of 10 for me, with the exception being diplomacy, which is going to get a 1 out of 10 because you just aren't incentivized to do it and you're actively hurt with diplomacy because you're going to be taking capitals. For the purpose of this video series, I'm giving Alexander a C tier rating, which is sad. Alexander used to be one of my favorite leaders in the game, especially when he came out way back in like, what was it, 2016 or something? He isn't the worst civ in the game, and good Alexander games can feel very, very good, but you have to re-roll a lot to get those good games. If you find yourself a good spawn and you have horses and iron in your capital, then you're going to Goomba stomp every other civ in the game. But without those things, you're essentially playing as a city-state with no bonuses whatsoever. Thank you everybody for watching, and if you liked this video or if it helped you at all, please leave me a like and subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, I want you to comment down below what you think of Civ 6's version of Alexander and Macedon. As always, this has been STG Sheep, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.